In this episode of Dark Matters Digest, I had the pleasure of interviewing former FBI profiler agent Jack Matthews, who provided a wealth of insights on criminal profiling and its impact on the high-profile case of Maura Murray's disappearance. Welcome to Dark Matters Digest, Jack. We're honored to have you on the show. As a former FBI profiler, you've worked on numerous high-profile cases, including the disappearance of Maura Murray. Could you start by giving us a brief overview of the case?
Thank you, Samuel. It's a pleasure to be here. The Maura Murray case began on February 9, 2004, when Maura, a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, disappeared after a single car accident en route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. She left behind her personal belongings, and there has been no confirmed sighting of her since.
It's been almost 2 decades since Maura's disappearance. What makes this case so perplexing, and why has it captured the attention of online communities?
There are several factors that make Maura's case particularly intriguing. Firstly, the circumstances surrounding her disappearance are mysterious. She left her dorm room without telling anyone where she was going, and her car was found with a cracked windshield, deployed airbags, and a locked door. Secondly, the timeline of her disappearance is very tight. Maura was involved in the accident at around 7:30 p.m., and when the police arrived at the scene just a few minutes later, she was already gone. This narrow window of time has led to many theories about what might have happened to her.
One of the most significant aspects of this case is the role of online communities in keeping it alive. Can you talk about their impact?
Online communities have played a critical role in this case. Web sleuths have spent countless hours researching, discussing, and sharing information about Maura's disappearance. They've not only helped to keep the case in the public eye, but have also contributed to the development of new leads and theories.
As an FBI profiler, what can you tell us about the potential suspects or persons of interest in this case?
There have been numerous persons of interest over the years, including some local residents and people Maura may have encountered on the day of her disappearance. However, there's been no concrete evidence to implicate anyone definitively.
Some theories suggest that Maura may have staged her disappearance to start a new life. What are your thoughts on that possibility?
It's a theory that has been discussed extensively, and while it's not entirely implausible, there's no concrete evidence to support it. Maura's actions leading up to her disappearance were unusual, but there's no indication that she was planning to disappear permanently.
You've mentioned the lack of concrete evidence in this case. How does that impact the investigation and the chances of solving it?
The absence of concrete evidence makes it challenging to determine what happened to Maura. It's difficult to rule out any theories or identify a clear suspect without more information. However, the passage of time can also work in favor of the investigation. People's circumstances change, and new witnesses or sources of information may come forward.
The online communities that have formed around this case have made significant contributions to the investigation.
Yes, they have. The online communities have generated a wealth of information, both factual and speculative. They've helped to disseminate Maura's story to a wider audience, keeping her case in the public eye and prompting new leads and tips.
How do you feel about the role of crowdsourcing and crowdsolving in investigations like this one?
I think it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the involvement of online communities can lead to the discovery of new information and insights that might otherwise have been overlooked. On the other hand, the sheer volume of speculation and unverified information can create confusion and, in some cases, hinder the investigation.
In your experience as an FBI profiler, what do you think are the most likely scenarios that could explain Maura's disappearance?
There are several plausible scenarios, but without concrete evidence, it's difficult to say which is the most likely. Maura could have met with foul play, either by someone she knew or a random encounter. She could have succumbed to the elements after leaving the scene of the accident, or she may have chosen to disappear and start a new life. Each of these scenarios has its own set of challenges and unanswered questions.
Over the years, there have been reported sightings of Mara or individuals resembling her. How do you approach these leads, and how reliable are they?
Every lead, including reported sightings, should be taken seriously and thoroughly investigated. However, it's important to remember that eyewitness accounts can be unreliable, and memories can be influenced by various factors. It's essential to approach these leads with caution and skepticism while still pursuing them diligently.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in solving a case like Mara's?
The biggest challenge is the lack of concrete evidence and the passage of time. With each passing year, memories fade, and potential witnesses may become harder to locate. Additionally, physical evidence can deteriorate or be lost, making it more difficult to piece together the puzzle of what happened.
In cases like Mara's, where there's a significant online following and interest, how does that affect the investigation from a law enforcement perspective?
As I mentioned earlier, the involvement of online communities can be both helpful and detrimental to an investigation. The increased awareness and sharing of information can lead to new leads and tips, but the sheer volume of speculation and unverified information can create confusion and make it more difficult for investigators to separate fact from fiction.
What advice would you give to members of the online communities who are passionate about helping to solve cases like Mara's?
I would encourage them to continue their efforts in a responsible and respectful manner. It's important to remember that at the heart of every case is a family who is still searching for answers. Sharing accurate, verified information and respecting the privacy of the individuals involved can go a long way in contributing positively to the investigation.
Do you believe that Mara's case can still be solved? And if so, what do you think will be the key to unlocking the mystery?
I remain hopeful that Mara's case can be solved. It's not uncommon for cold cases to be solved decades after the fact, as new evidence, witnesses, or advancements in technology come to light. The key to unlocking the mystery may lie in a piece of information that has yet to be discovered or a fresh perspective that can shed new light on the case.
Thank you, Jack, for sharing your insights and expertise with us today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Samuel. It's been a pleasure discussing this case with you and your listeners. I hope that by keeping Mara's story alive, we can eventually bring some closure to her family and those who have dedicated their time and efforts to finding answers.
Before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share with our audience?
I would like to remind everyone that cases like Mara's are not just stories or puzzles to be solved. They involve real people with families and friends who are still searching for answers. It's important to approach these cases with empathy and respect, keeping in mind the human element behind them.
Thank you once again, Jack, for joining us on Dark Matters Digest. To our listeners, we encourage you to continue following Mara's case and contribute responsibly to the ongoing discussion. If you have any information or leads that could help with the investigation, please contact the appropriate authorities. That's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this interview and would like to stay up to date with the latest episodes and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe to Dark Matters Digest and our Chronicles of Chatterwood newsletter at Calavox.com. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep delving into the darkness and searching for the truth.